Welcome back to Just Spiritually Speaking. I am Angie. This is John and Tenesha, and today we are welcoming Keena from Keena's Corner. She is a entrepreneur, a CEO, meaning a Chief Encouragement Officer, a mom, a mentor, and a sickle cell survivor. Keena, please tell us a little bit about your journey.
When it comes to my journey with sickle cell, it's been a lifelong journey. But the way that it ties into my spirituality, I would say, has been only roughly 12 years. 12 years ago, I went through an instance literally in September of 2009 where I feel like my body betrayed me. Um, I've always known that of course, I was born with sickle cell. However, at that moment, I had organ failure, I had liver failure, I lost my vision, and a whole host of other things happened to me, during this instance. And so, once coming out of that, it was like a 6-week period where my health basically just took a turn for the worse. I didn't know, how I don't know how I came out of it. Doctors and everybody can only describe it as a miracle. Literally, when I used to go for checkups, doctors would say, yeah, it's a miracle that I survived it. Having had my kidneys fail, now they're back at 100% working. My liver failed. I did have to have my gallbladder out at the time. My vision has come back to an extent. I wear glasses 24/7 now. I can't see without them, but more than anything, it shifted and gave me a purpose, because after that happened, yearly, I would go through these moments of depression. Every September, I would wonder, what's going on. I always wonder why God brought me out of it. It was always a prayer, like, why did I survive that? How did I survive that? Although I don't have a lot of memories of going through it, knowing that I came through it was always just this thing in the back of my head, like, how did I survive that? Why did I survive that? And so I just always was in prayer about it. And throughout the years, God began to reveal things to me, about my purpose. Like every year, I noticed it was a seasonal thing. I would go into depression. And so I would really, end up at the feet of God, like, what is going on? What is my purpose here? Why did you bring me out of that? Because it was something that nobody had ever imagined. My experience with sickle cell up to that point was just physical pain, because the way sickle cell works is it deals with the red blood cells in our body. So usually they're circle shaped, but mine, at some point during the process of a red blood cell, it loses the oxygen component to it, and it turns sickle shaped. So it looks like a crescent moon. And those become sticky and they become hard to move. The blood vessels are made for the circle ones to be able to flow through them. However, once they lose that oxygen component and become sickled, they have a tendency to stick together, pile up, and in those instances, it creates what they call a sickle cell crisis. So at the time when all of this happened to me, I went into the hospital, what I thought was just a regular sickle cell crisis. Usually those last about a week for me. I go into the hospital. The only way they manage it is with lots of fluids, because they have to flush the blood vessels. And then there's pain medication to just get me through the process, because there's not really anything that they can do. And so when that happened to me, I just always had that question of why, like, what is going on? This is nothing that we ever imagined happening. Like, we always known that I would have pain. I had always had physical pain. I had been through crisis. So it was like, oh, I've been here before. When I got sick originally, it was just like, okay, I'll be out in a week. No, it was almost like a 6-week journey of this. My family had to pray me through it. They had to put me through. Like, there were pockets of time that I just don't remember because I was, incoherent. So those things just brought me to the feet of God, just constantly year after year, asking like, why, why. And eventually, things a little bit here, a little bit there, he would reveal things to me. And so the main thing he told me about that situation in particular was that my family needed to see his healing power, because physically I was used to going through it. It didn't start affecting me mentally and emotionally until years later. So once I started to notice the repeat cycle of every September, I would go into this depression. That's when it really started to affect me. During that 6-week period, it's like I went through it, but I didn't know. Like, so it was just like a fog to me, for anything more
When
than
you say
anything.
you went through it, meaning you had physical symptoms, you had emotional symptoms, your connection with God, like what do you mean when you say you went through?
And when I say I went through it, it's like I was there. So physically it was happening to me, but mentally and emotionally, it didn't make sense because there were pockets of time that I was incoherent. It was like I went into the hospital for this 1 week stint and then I wake up in the ICU. I didn't even have time to process that, to say, oh, your kidneys have failed you, so I'm in the ICU. And so my family was able to come back during that time in pockets to see me. And I just remember, because I was on so many pain meds, because they were trying to keep me comfortable because they didn't know how much pain I was in, I would be in and out of sleep. So I just remember sometimes waking up, seeing somebody there. So all I know was I was going through it, but and so as I said, the mental ramifications came later because I will always go back to be like, dang, like when I would hear my family talk about the stories, like, man, you was down, like we didn't know if you was gonna make it, we didn't this, we didn't, and I'm just like, wow, like to hear those things again, it just used to always take me back to the question of, well, why did you save me? Or why did that happen to me? This was nothing I was used to. We never did, like, that had never happened before. We never imagined that happening. I have to that point been, okay with having to deal with the disease. But if this is going to be happening, then that's when I began to question life, my purpose. Am I living my best life? If he can bring me out of something that miraculously, to where my whole body shuts down on me, then there's a reason I'm here. And it started like the journey then was like, okay, well, why? Why would you save me? Or people, that you could have saved or anything like that throughout the years of losing family members or, losing people close to me or anything. I would always go back to that. Well, there's a reason I'm here. And I began to do like self-awareness checks to say, okay, am I living my best life? Am I allowing God to use me in, the best way possible? And so it began. So that happened to me. That was 12 years ago. And it's like I said, it happened to me, but it didn't happen to me because I went through that September to mid-October. December of that same year, I was enrolled in school to become a medical assistant and working full time while being a single mom. So it's like I got through it and I was just like, well, whatever it happened. But then after that next September of 2010, it hit me a little bit like, wow, like it was almost like the anniversary of it. And so a little bit then I felt it like, wow, I really survived. By then I had finished school to be a medical assistant. So it was like, okay, I came through that. Now what? So I was just beginning to live my life and do different things that I, wanted to do in spite of, to make sure that I was living, the best life. And then one year I went into deep depression for it. Like I had moved out of Michigan. That was something I never imagined doing. I had relocated because I felt like at the time what I wanted to do in my life, I couldn't do it there. I was living in Flint, Michigan, and I'm like, I want a better life. I had seen my siblings at the time, I had seen them relocate. And so it was like, I can do this too. At first I was scared because I was going to be away from like my mom, the main person who was
Before
always.
before we go back into that, I don't want to forget this point, and I want to go back because I can fill in some of the holes as to what she doesn't remember from her journey. I'm her sister, so I remember it vividly when she had this episode. Like Kina, like the conclusion that Kina drew on her spirituality isn't the conclusion that I drew. Like a lot of my prayer was based on Kina's faith. Kina had kind of what you would call unshakable faith. Like she believed. She had a pastor come in and pray for her. She believed at that point that she was pretty much, cured, like she was okay. She didn't really need the medication anymore. And for the most part, she was okay. The way that we saw it as her family is Keena's organs are shutting down. Keena's on life support. We have to get our brother out of the army because they're predicting that Keena is not going to survive many more days. Like it was a different tragedy for us. She was incoherent, but we were living a nightmare the whole time. And I could remember doing Facebook prayer times, like we would meet at 12 o'clock and do prayer. But a lot of my faith was based on Keena's belief that she was going to be okay. And so we questioned had we done everything we were supposed to do to recognize the symptoms because by this time we knew, okay, she needs fluids, she needs medication, she needs this, and we were wondering why it turned out to be such a traumatic thing. When I look back on it now, based on where I am in my faith now, I don't know that I would have had so many of those kind of prayer circles begging at the feet of God for prayer. I would have sent healing instead of saying, "Oh, can you heal? Can you heal?" Because when you realize you have that ability, if you believe in God and you believe that you were given that ability, at this point in my life, I would have sent healing versus praying and begging, "Please heal her, please heal her." So my perspective on it is way different than hers. Like she, it took her to the feet of God. I prayed because that was Keena's faith. That's how she um that was she was there. Like Keena did not believe. That was her thing. If Keena said God told her to do it, I believe that God actually spoke to Keena and told her to do it. My faith wasn't that strong, and even now, when I look back on it, it's totally different, and I would have approached the situation a lot different.
Tina, are you still on any medication?
The only thing I take daily is folic acid. Um, so for that, there is a medication treatment that they do offer to sickle cell patients. It's called hydroxyurea. At one point in my early teenage years, when it was first rolling out, they did have me on it. But I think and like the last time I went to my hematologist, he told me he would hold off me trying it again because I haven't been on it in years. And he said I've been doing a very good job maintaining my illness. And so and I've always had doctors throughout the years tell me compared to other sickle cell patients, I was very well off. Like I was doing pretty good. And so if you look at disease as a spectrum, I'm probably on the lower end, but in this season I was on the other end where everything that could have went wrong. And so
And I must
that's just
say,
what it was.
I had friends that were on the very far end of the spectrum where they were always in the hospital. They were having strokes. They were having all kinds of blood transfusions, and both of them eventually died very early. Like I think one of them died at 17. And like Keena was my first experience with sickle cell, but she was my first death. Like she was 17 or 18, and this was a peer that I went to school with. So when this happened to Keena, it was even more polarized for me because these are people, and we even had other family members that had passed from it also. So I, it's different from me looking at her than from her experiencing it because I had friends who had died from it, or I had friends who had it more severe. So we did think Keena was lucky in that she wasn't going to the hospital every week, every month,
Right.
4 and 5 times a month. Like once we understood what we needed to do, that's what we did. Like people found out, oh, she needs fluids. And so every year there was a sale at this local store in Michigan that sold popsicles. So people would just send popsicles. Like they would buy popsicles because Keena needs to be hydrated. Keena needs water. So once we understood what we needed to do, we were pretty good about handling. And for it to get to this point, the question in my head, and maybe not everybody else's, was what did we miss? How did we not, catch this before it got to this? And then what is so different about this situation? Because it shut everybody's lives down. We all dropped everything and went back because when they say the words life support, kidney failure, liver failure, then that's serious. And so it was very different. And to me, it was taking us over to that side to my friends who had passed from sickle cell.
Now, what does the folic acid do for you?
The folic acid, it just helps with the iron levels in my blood. And so it just kind of helps that because I have sickle cell, I also have low iron because it's a sickle cell anemia. And so that is one of the components of it. So it's to help keep the iron levels in my body up.
Okay.
So yeah, I just
So
get it like from the local drugstore. Like I know it's not even prescribed really. He just told me to just get the local one from the drugstore. It works the same. And so I just take that daily. And that's about it.
as you've gone down this journey, especially with the physical health crisis, did you have strong faith before the physical health crisis, and then that strong faith carried you through? And,
Yes.
and additionally, when you as you went through this journey, I know the Spirit speaks to you, and that you sometimes are like, I don't want to hear anymore. Sometimes I do. That struggle that somebody in the lower right hand corner has continuously. Anyway, when you had that, when did you connect with that part of your spirituality too? Was it that event that did it, or were you connected to it before and pushed it back? How to bring this in, that aspect of it too?
So for me, it was many years later when I connected the spiritual part to it. I've always had a strong faith base. I grew up in the church Baptist. And so the incidents when I was younger, because this happened when I was like 21 or 22. So the years prior to that, anytime I was in the hospital, we had been involved at this church, the pastor would come and pray for me. I believed so strongly that they said, literally, he would come pray on Tuesday. By Wednesday, I was a brand new person. Like I believed that strongly, like, oh, he said I'm healed, then I'm healed. Like I would just take it as that. So I literally had childlike faith. And so that carried me throughout my life. So that's why anytime I got sick, I always knew that I would come out, whether my pastor came and prayed for me or not, I always knew that this would, it would be okay. It's just a process I have to go through. It would every time make me check, like she said, even with her at that time, they checked, okay, what did we miss? Every time I got sick, it was always something else that I could have done to possibly prevent it. There are times when there's nothing I can do, but for the most part, there is things that I can hold myself accountable for to prevent a crisis from happening. But it wasn't until many years later, like to be able to hear the way that I hear from God, to be able to move the way that I move when I do things in regards to what God is telling me. Because I remember having an encounter, I probably was like 10 or 11. I remember being in the hospital and again, a regular crisis, just sitting there chilling on my meds. And so I remember my mom was like, I'm going to go downstairs, get some coffee. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take some medicine and go to sleep because they have these medicine pumps in there. So I took the medicine, I went to sleep. And as I was going to sleep, I could clearly hear someone say, Keena. They did it like 3 times. And then something touched me. And I literally remember sitting up in my bed and crying out, help me, help me. I was terrified because I didn't know what it was. I was in a hospital room by myself, and my mom had left. The nurses were there. So who is this? What is this? And I remember my grandmother, who was still alive, my mom's mom was still alive at the time, and she said to me, that was the good Lord coming to you. And she told me an experience that she had, because my grandmother was handicapped and she had an issue with her foot. And so I remember her story that, didn't make this seem as crazy as it was just that, oh, that was the good Lord coming to you to heal you. And she said that he had, excuse me, she said that he had come to her once before, sat on the edge of her bed and was pulling on her leg because she, had an issue with her leg. And so he was healing her. And I was just like, okay, I'm little, like 8 to 10. I don't remember exactly. So that was like probably my very first encounter. Years later, I'm able to tie that. Someone is preaching a sermon while I'm in church, and they talk about, when God creates a covenant with you, certain things that happen, and it takes me back to this experience. But then also, as I continue to grow in my journey, I also know that they're not going to involve themselves if you don't want to. So they scared me at that time. So they stayed away until I welcomed them back into my life. Until I was told, until I was ready to receive messages or to deal with them at that level. I don't know any 8 to 10. Well, I mean, just the way that they came to me is scary, but I don't know too many 18-year-olds that are okay with ghosts. Some may be, but I was not. And so that was probably a first encounter I had, but it wasn't till many years later where I relocated out of Michigan that I heard God clearly in my own audible voice. Like it was a time where, like I said, I was changing. I was making moves. I was trying to get to the bottom of, okay, this why. You know, when I told you I had been wondering, every September it would come around. So I would begin to ask, well, God, why? And I would pray and stuff. And so I realized, okay, I'm not happy here. So then that was opening doors for me to move. I began to become, honest with myself. I'll never leave in Michigan. This is all I know. But it was a fear of, how do I survive outside of here, knowing that I have this condition. All my doctors are here. All of my family is here. My friends are there. My mom is here. She's still there, doesn't want to move. But it was like a defining moment in my life where I had seen my sisters and my brother move, and I desired that something different in my life, and I wanted to move. But there was still fear. I realized that a lot of my fear, the root of my fear, was because of the illness that I had. Because like sickles, like I was born in, I'm about to tell my, I was born in like 86, not until 1988 did they start testing babies at birth for sickle cell. So my mom literally didn't know for like 2 years that I had sickle cell. So think of someone who has 2 kids already, and you kind of get a routine to say, okay, when they're crying, it's either diaper, it's a meal, it's they want to be whole. When you do all these things, and so now you're at your 3rd round and you do all these things and that still doesn't work. I can only imagine what my mom was going through mentally, now having to deal with me. And so they said I knew how to walk, I would still crawl, but it was because I was in pain and they didn't know that I was having these crises. So not until she found that out were we able to know what we're supposed to do, and did it. And so then we get to 2009 where it's like, we've been doing what we were supposed to do. What happened? And then I'm coming out of that, but it's all a part of my journey. So I come out of that and I'm like, I want to move. My thing was always, I can't because I have sickle cell, but through my journey, God has taught me that you can in spite of having sickle cell.
Is that the motivation for Keena's Corner?
Yes, it is. It's part of me wanting to let people know that it's no matter what ailment they have, like, this is my disease. This is, my mountain, or this is my road that I have to walk, so no matter which disease anybody has, they can do whatever it is that they want to do in spite of having that, because a lot of us get fearful, when it comes to, oh, I got depression, I can't do this. You can, like, I can say I used to use my sickle cell as a crutch, but God is telling me, don't lean on that, lead with that. In some instances of my life, I can see where me having sickle cell, it's kind of a superpower, because I've always felt a little bit different than other people. So I always felt like if they're giving 100, I have to give 110 just to appear to be at their level. So it created a work ethic in me that sometimes is unmatched by people who don't have it. But I have to be careful not to toe that line of it being a superpower and a chip on my shoulder. So I can wear it proud like an S on my chest, like, yes, I did this in spite of having sickle cell, but don't let it become the chip on my shoulder, to say, to stop me, or to, become bigger than what I am, because I know that a lot of what I do is not also by my might or power. It's God, infused, like God led a lot of times, because listen, I still be scared. I still be fearful, like launching Keena's Corner. If you look at the thing, I launched it over 2 years ago. I'm just coming out now. He's like literally pushing me out into the limelight with it. It's been a place where I like to say that people can learn, they can grow, they can find motivation and inspiration via what I say is the Chronicles of Keena. Because like, as I'm learning and growing every day, I see myself as a lotus flower that's become like a life flower for me. One thing about lotus flowers is, as they're growing, as they're fighting up through the dark, because they grow in swampy areas, but as they're fighting to the top to get the sun on them, they're throwing back information. So as I forge the way, blaze a trail, I want to leave throw back all the information that I can, all the motivation that I can, all of the inspiration that I can to show people that, it doesn't matter what you look like, what you're going through in your daily processes. If you know yourself, if you love yourself, then you can survive those seasons. You can get through whatever the unimaginable is for you. This is just, like I said, it's my journey. And so at Keena's Corner, it's like where I want people to get an intersection of not only who I am, but who I am in Christ, or who they are in Christ. It's like a corner is an intersection of a street. And so when they come to my page, they'll get inspiration from all types of things. Like, it's not all just Christ-centered. It might be Christ-led for the most part, but I find inspiration in any and everything. I don't necessarily look at the messenger. I look at the message that is being spoken to me, but that was me learning who I am and how I learn and how I receive messages. So another thing that I like to preach over there is just about self-awareness, knowing what you like, doing what you like, being happy, being healthy.
Okay. Speaking of that, Keena's Corner is sponsoring these lovely red shirts that we have on for Sickle Cell Awareness, which is September, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Explain a little bit about what makes this shirt special and why this is a milestone.
This shirt is special to me because it is my public declaration that I'm a survivor. I'm a living example of someone who has gone through and survived the unimaginable. And so via Keena's Corner, where I share the chronicles of Keena, I talk about everything that I'm surviving, everything not in detail, but just the motivation that is getting me through. So I wanted to step it up for sickle cell this year. And every September, we celebrate sickle cell awareness. And on Fridays, we wear red. So I created a red shirt, and I'm asking 35 people to step it up with me. I am 35 years old, so I made 35 shirts to declare that I'm a survivor. And on the back, it says Sickle Cell Awareness. It also just has Keena's Corner on there, my little signature, because like I said, this isn't my declaration, but I feel like it's other people's declaration. There are a lot of people out here who have gone through and survived the unimaginable. And so I just wanted 35 people who would step it up with me and help bring awareness to sickle cell. So anybody can wear red. It doesn't have to be my red shirt. It could be a red shirt, but that's why I created this, because I would be talking every year that I've been doing this for the last 3-4 years. I would hear little comments that, dang, I ain't even got no red, or I only have one red shirt. So I was like, well, I'm gonna make one, and this is like, it's very, very personal to me. Like I said, this is my personal declaration, but I feel like it can go to anybody else as well. And so I want to proudly say with my chest that I am a survivor. So that's why it's a shirt. And so like that's why I created the shirt. This is a milestone because like God showed me that this is a labor of love that I'm doing. I'm at this point in my life, I'm giving honor to the pain that has given me so much understanding throughout my life. So yes, I've been celebrating sickle cell for the last few years, but I wanted to step it up this year. Like I said, I had the desire to step it up. And so this is me doing that. Like, I'm literally making these shirts by hand. I made the design, I'm cutting them, I'm pressing them, and then I'm going to be mailing them out if I have to the people that purchase them. And so this is such a labor of love for me. And it's just me giving honor back to sickle cell. And then the proceeds or the profits that is made from this shirt are going to be donated to a cause that helps and aids with sickle cell awareness and research and things of that such, so that we can get this thing, get it under control. We can do away with it or anything like that.
That's good. So we are pretty much getting the first edition of the shirt. Like, we all have the very first printing off the press of the Keena's Corner Sickle Cell Survivor shirt for 2021. Please tell us how they can purchase the shirt, or what information you need regarding getting the shirt.
If they want, they can send me an email to Keena'sCorner@gmail.com. That's KEYNAKORNER at gmail.com. Don will put all the information I know in the in the box below, but they can send an email there that just says the size of the shirt that they want, how many they want, the sizes. They can and send me their address because I have to mail them. I haven't set up my site just yet, so I'm kind of doing all of this old school. So they're going to have to make sure that they have how many they want and the sizes. Again, there are only 35 of these shirts. There are 5 of every size from the size small to 4XL, and right now 3 of them are already gone. So it's kind of like made the best person win. So it's like the odds forever be in your favor. If the sizes that you request are out, I'm definitely going to respond instantly and let you know that size isn't available and let you know what I still have left. Again, like this is very personal. I'm doing this all, myself, but again, it's a labor of love for me. It seems like it's a little bit of a big project, but I got to get honored to this. Like I'm a survivor. Like when you know, you know. So.
And remember, there's only 4 size smalls left because I have the 5th size small.
That is correct.
That's like my age is only 35.
Like I said, I've made 35, but I can tell you that a lot of them are claimed. So maybe the odds, forever be in people's favor. But I'm excited. And if I get the opportunity or if I have time, I'll definitely do more. But I want to start with 35 because I'm 35. I priced them at 35 because I'm 35. Like to have lived this long, like, because like she said, my sister said she knew people who didn't make it past 17 or 18. I believe when my mom found out I had this disease, my life expectancy was 21 or 22. And ironically, the episode that I spoke of happened around that time. So it was almost as if my mom's biggest fears were coming to light. But God, that's all I can say is but God. And so I've been around here for 35 years. I plan to be here for at least 35 more, and continue in 35 after that. So that's why we're starting with 35.
Okay. And if there's one specific message that you would like to get out about sickle cell, what would it be?
One specific message is that I think it's just knowing who you are and knowing that you can do anything in spite of having it. Like this disease doesn't exist without you. And so as long as you know everything that you can know, and as long as you do everything that you can do, that's all that matters. Every day I just live my life. I keep living. I'm continuously learning. I'm always growing. But more importantly, I just keep going. I have my days where I have to listen to my body. So that's why you have to know yourself. You need to know your limits. I know that, I live in Arizona, so it can get up to 100 and some degrees. If I'm invited somewhere, I need to know how long I can be out there in that heat before it may affect me, how much water I need to have with me. So a big proponent of being successful with this is just knowing yourself and loving yourself, and being able to and having a great support system.
And then as a supporter of someone, I'm sorry, go ahead, Don.
I'm going to say on the other side of that coin is that spirituality. And so, and making sure that you stay on your path. How would you advise folks to connect to that and to find their path and stay on their path? Because it sounds like that spirituality has held you in good stead throughout this entire situation. And it probably will hold you instead moving forward.
I think for me, it was a great proponent. Like it was just knowing that God was a healer. So as I've gotten to know God throughout the years, as my spirituality has grown, one thing I can always count on is if this is a disease or if this is something that can be cured, I know that I'll be healed from it. Like if it comes to something like health wise, if I don't know God as nothing else, I know him as a healer. And if this is something that can be healed, if this is something that can be overcome, then I know that I'll overcome it. It's just the perspective in which you look at things. So I've heard someone say that, it's not a disease, it's a dis-ease. So like there's something that's uneasy about what you're feeling with this or anything like that. So breaking that down, like that's what I've had to learn to do. Like again, when I realized I was going through depression every September, why am I having this dis-ease of depression? I've never had it before. Where is this coming from? But there was an unsettling in my spirit that was telling me that I wanted to do more. And so that's where I learned to start to educate people, because the more I know, the more I grow. And so as I learned stuff, again, like a lotus, I was just throwing that information out there. I wanted people to know, because my parents had no idea that they were both carriers of the trait, which resulted in me having it. They have 4 kids. I'm the only one who has it. So it was something that they hadn't experienced before. Like we found out that there are people in our family that had it. But again, not till 1988 did they start testing for it in kids at birth. And so it was almost like I was, a test, or people would just come like, oh, I have it. Like there are some people who I have encountered who they don't, like hospitals don't believe that they have it. So knowing it, getting yourself tested, there are specific tests that you can have. I tell you all that over at Keena's Corner during the month of September, I educate people about it. And so that's what's going on. And so if they want to follow me over there, they'll see throughout the month of September how somebody can end up with sickle cell, how it's transferred to, other kids or anything like that, and how they can prevent, their kids from having it, or how to survive if their kids do have it. It's not a death sentence.
As a person with sickle cell, how can others support you emotionally, spiritually, physically? However, as a sickle cell person, or as a person with sickle cell, how would you what was the best way that someone could support you?
Holding me accountable, just being understand, like giving me grace in those moments. Because when it comes to sickle cell, hydration is a huge part of it. Especially just being out here in the heat. I found out it's a huge proponent for me, making sure I'm staying hydrated. So I don't mind being held accountable. I don't mind people, asking me how much water have I had, how much rest have I had, because that's very important as well, not to overstress my body. Making sure, so I just want people to, any questions that they ask on how it can be better, like I don't want to be treated differently because I have it, but understand that, I may move differently because I have it as well. Like, if everybody's staying out late, I may not, because I know me. And so just giving me grace in those moments, if I decide to go, knowing, hey, she's doing what's best for her, and appreciating that and honoring my decisions, anything that I do. If I say no, it's because I know that I don't want to do that. Like I can't do it physically or anything like that. But, and just getting the understanding on their own on how they, like, that's the biggest support is, holding me accountable and just giving me grace in moments of, if I'm just like, I'm tired today, I can't do it, or anything like that, like not taking it personal, because it can happen at any moment. Like sometimes it doesn't matter how accountable I am to myself. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like if I'm going to have a crisis, or if something that I couldn't prevent is going to happen. Like I can't control everything. And that's where I think a lot of my fear came, was I couldn't control this. I just had to understand it and try to maintain it as best I can. But me having Christ, like, or just having that belief in God, that knowing that I'll be healed when I come up on an unimaginable situation, I know that I'll get through it. Because up to this point, I've survived 100% of my worst days.
And a reminder to everybody out there is that when we talk about Sickle Cell Month, when we talk about African American History Month, Latino History Month, LGBTQ Pride Month, it is a month to pay attention to and notice it. But Keena lives this 24/7, 365, along with everybody else and their families. It doesn't just affect the individual, it affects the family, it affects the social fabric. And so we're having this discussion now, but remember that there is no wrong time to give to and support the causes for sickle cell, because again, it's not just in September that she has to deal with this. This is, and anybody else who has sickle cell, they have to deal with this again, 365, 24/7. And so it's a time to pay attention, which is great in September, and it's to focus us. But remember that when we're talking about this is a constant situation for folks, and they have to live with this as is with cancer and everything else. I mean, we've got to make sure we stay on top of it.
I do know that you may see that on some of my pages, I do challenges every month for like Cancer Society. And so for Sickle Cell Month, I'm stepping it up and I'm gonna run. Let me tell you this, I'm gonna start running. I don't know if at the end of September I'll still be running, but the goal is it's a dual campaign that I'm doing for Sickle Cell and Cancer Society. So it says run 50 miles in September. So where I would normally just walk, I'm going to run 2 miles a day. So at the end of the month, it should be 60. Now, if my total say 10, mind your business. I tried, but every Friday I have a shirt on. You are welcome to join me. So like when Keena posts her Keena's Corner or post her information about sickle cell, just spiritually speaking, we'll also post about it. And then I'll also let you know my progress on those steps. And if I end up in the ER, I'm just saying I tried. And Keena, I tried.
Hey, and that's all I can ever ask for is to try. Again, if you can't get the shirt, that's fine. Wear any red. It doesn't have to be this red shirt, but this was me, like I said, honoring. So I have the ability to craft. I had the tools, and so I decided to do it. I'm not making money off of this shirt. I'm donating it. You know, this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. That's why I said it's a labor of love. So I'm putting in the hours. I'm putting in the work to give you guys a product to be able to just stand with me, to step it up, you know, to stand with me. Like I said, just to bring awareness. Like that's all it is because some people just don't know. And I just feel like the more we know, then that's the more that we can grow and hold ourselves accountable. And so like when she asked me what can people do, like I said, give me grace, educate yourself on this, to not think that, you know, depending on my behavior or, you know, anything like that, it could be sickle cell related or anything. And so, but also that's not my crutch either. You know, I'm more than capable to do any and everything. I'll just have my limits or make it done a little bit slower, but know that it's going to be done with excellence, whatever it is.
So we did talk a little bit off camera about some of the things, or one of the things that you'll be doing for Sickle Cell Month. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what you have planned for this month?
Okay, so originally or usually I just post facts. Facts are just facts, but sometimes you kind of want to know what that is like in reality. So after this is released, I feel like I gave you guys an exclusive to my spiritual journey. What I plan to do is each week release a different aspect of how this affects me. So the second week of September, it'll be an interview with my siblings to know how it was growing up with me having sickle cell and how I fared, you know, compared to anything else, to other people that they know with or without the disease. And then the following week, which will be week 3 in September, I'm going to be having an interview with my close friends. So I have my very best friend on there. I have my cousin who grew up with me and is close to me as a sister. And then I have 2 very close friends of my sisters that are going to be in there because they're like my sisters as well now. But, you know, they were like their outside support. So it was like the support to the support and just also my friends. And then I also have the final week will be an interview with my boss because I want to highlight how this is affecting me, like in employment. Although I feel like I've been blessed and it doesn't affect me that much, it's just I wanted her to have a conversation with me about what other employers can do when faced with having an employee who has a medical condition or anything like that, and how they can, you know, allow them to still be who they are and make money. You know, some people live off a disability because they can't go to work. I've been blessed to not have to do that. I can go to work. I can work 40 hours or more, but that's my journey. What about the people who can't or who try to do that and, you know, have lost jobs, you know, because there is, but because also their employer, you know, didn't understand what they were going through and maybe thought they were a flake or maybe thought that they were anything. So I've always been open and honest with my boss. And so I just wanted to have a conversation so that people can see how that works.
Where can they see these videos?
I'm going to be posting them over at Keena's Corner. They're going to be on Instagram and Facebook.
All
Do you
right.
have any other questions?
I just had one more thing to say as a supporter of someone. And the reason I asked that question is because we always think that we're giving, you what you need. And it's good to hear what you think is the best support for you. Because for us, it's, for me, it's in my spiritual journey, I've gone from begging for you to be healed to sending you healing energy, or nurturing you in other ways. And so that's just the reason I wanted to make sure people knew how they could support someone. And I think that each of your videos each week will shed more light on it, and people will get a great understanding. Like, I'm excited about the whole thing, and I'm glad that Just Spiritually Speaking gets the scoop on everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. Like I said, it was definitely an exclusive. I feel like I'm coming out of the darkness and being able to shine really brightly now. Like, I have such an awareness of myself throughout all of this, and what it means to me, and how could I not give honor to the very thing that, put me in this position.
Awesome. Donna, do you have any last questions for Keena?
No, I think that the one thing, the most important, well, not the most important thing, but a very important thing to remember as we move, as anyone who with sickle cell moves down their journey, is that this disease, you can't tell from the outside. You look at somebody you don't know, and so you never know how many people, but you would be surprised at how many people have sickle cell and how many people are working through it, living through it, and it's part of their existence. So even though you may not hear about it, even though you may not know it, because again, it's not an affliction that shows up physically, except at a time when it's a crisis. The reality is that it's out of sight, out of mind. So again, 365, 24/7, people living this, and it's more people than you can imagine. There are a lot of people who deal with and live with and have learned to modify their lives to live a successful, healthy life with sickle cell. But that comes from education, from research, from knowledge, and from a community of support. So we all have to be there. It's not just their journey, it's all of our journeys.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Anything else from anyone else on the gallery? Keena, do you want to add anything else that people should know?
No, that's about it. Just get your shirts. Like I said, made the odds for me a favor because it's only 35. So as soon as you see this and be like, I want one of them, you can send the email again to keenascorner@gmail.com. And I'm sure he'll put all the information below this. And I will also be putting up a post on Keena's Corners as well. So
if they can't purchase a shirt, is there any particular organization that you prefer that they donate to, or is it just, donate to a sickle cell organization of your choice?
Yes. Another thing that I like to do in the midst of COVID, I'm not really pushing that this year, but in my life, I've had times where I've had to have blood transfusions. If at any time that they can, if there's a blood drive at their job, at their church, or just anywhere, just give blood. And if they do, they could think of me, because sometimes it's needed. There was literally a time where they had to take 2 units from me and give me 4, so, and like in COVID times, I hear that there is a limit, that the numbers are down and people donating. So if you feel safe, if you cannot financially do it, your body will regenerate that. And it's a small token that you can do. And I just ask that anytime that they can, that they just donate blood, and they can donate it in my cause. Like, I'm not an affiliate with Red Cross or anything. One day I will be, but no, I just encourage that. Like, if you can't, sometimes you can't financially support. So you're like, well, what can I do? What can I do? You can share the post about sickle cell, raise the awareness. You can wear any red, whether it's a shirt, it's about red. If you get just a red bow, anything just to bring awareness, but also tell people what it means if they ask you, like, cause I'm about to be red from head to toe. I'm about to go get my rubber bands changed. I have my nails done. I got my red shirt. I got red shoes and everything. And so I just be letting people know it's sickle cell awareness. Like, when I got my nails done, I'm like, yeah, I want red because it's sickle cell awareness month. So it's just that, like, just raise awareness. A share is free, a like is free, an encouraging word is free. So you don't always have to donate financially. And again, your blood is there. That's also free a little bit, but that's just one way that you can do it if you're comfortable in these times to be able to do that, or whenever you do feel comfortable, anytime, just donate blood.
And if you can't give blood and you miss out on these 35 because the odds are not in your favor, you are welcome to take some of my miles and run them.
Yes.
I am not.
Don said absolutely not.
You can take any of those miles, or you can support our hydration.
Oh yes. I have officially, I haven't announced it, but I think I will be doing a hydration challenge as well. I was still on I have to stay hydrated, and I can say that I'm not always the best with it. So I was going to challenge myself. So it was going to be a personal challenge, but now I might have to go public to drink a gallon a day in the month of September, just to stay hydrated, because it definitely helps with me in the heat. I can't get probably like half a gallon, but I'm stepping it up. So I'm gonna have to try to really get that gallon a day of water in. And so if I decide, I'll post it and you guys can, join in with that as well. But again, all the details of whatever I decide to do will definitely be on Keena's Corner.
And Angie, if I run, you take some of your miles and run, then we'll be doing something on Heart Awareness Month. So we're not
I'm with it, Don.
Don, just walk it out, because I haven't gotten to a place where I can run, but sometimes I try to just walk. In May, I did a mile a day in May, and so Listen, I got my 30, how many was it supposed to be? The challenge was, I think, 50. I got my miles in because I was supposed to do 1.5 a day. Listen, I met my goal. But on any of that, if you start these challenges and you can't finish them, that's fine. All I wanted was a little bit of effort, just a little bit of awareness. If she start and she can only make it one day of running, she stepped it up that one day, and I'm grateful for it. Like I said, this is a journey that I walk every day, and so if you want to try to run it for me, go ahead. Take the baton from me and move. So at this point, and my partner marathon, I'm just passing the baton to people to do whatever they can just to raise awareness. That's it.
Awesome. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for tuning in to Just Spiritually Speaking. Keena, thank you for coming to share your journey with us. We will put Keena's information in the description box below, as well as how you can order the shirts. Any last words from anyone else?
Like, share, subscribe, follow, and comment on those social media platforms.
Keep living, keep learning, keep growing, keep going.